Good morning and welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7. I'm Kevin Kietzman, and we've got an excellent show for you today. Hopefully, I've got some topics that Pete hasn't covered. I was just teasing him again. He touched on a lot of the things I want to go deeper into today. I like that. I hear a lot more of his show now. I've rearranged my schedule. I podcast in the mornings, but I've changed the schedule around where I hear more of the show because I don't want to be repetitive when I come on of a lot of things that Pete has done. So we will try to avoid that on a daily basis. We're pleased to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us as you do each and every day. So many loyal listeners on KCMO Talk Radio. I'm just proud to be part of the a little cog in the wheel here of what's going on at KCMO Talk Radio. Good stuff with a growing audience, and we're glad to have you every single day. In a little bit, we're going to talk about something that they did in Tennessee that we would love to see them do in Missouri. I don't think it's possible in Kansas, but I think it's possible in Missouri. We'll get to that. The KC Pride Fest is crying poor. Last week we told you about Anheuser-Busch after 30 years pulling its funding from the St. Louis Pride Fest. And now apparently nobody is stepping up and saying they're sponsoring the Pride Fest this year, even though people are. They don't want to be identified as sponsors, and they're some $200,000 short. And my question is, how much does it take a city park and have a Pride Fest? If they're $200,000 short, crazy. And we've got some fun topics at the end for Mark when he joins us, including an update on all those birds that flew over. Yeah, we had 55 million birds fly over a couple of nights ago, and I've got an update. We were asking, what about radar and airplanes? I have that answer later in the show on Uncanceled. We will start today with something I didn't know. Maybe you did. This was known to me, that the Chiefs, we know that they're tearing up Arrowhead Stadium right now. They're ripping out seats. They're changing the whole thing around, and they're doing it for the World Cup. And I'd always gone on the assumption that that's what it was going to be this fall because they're getting ready for the stadium and do all that. And then Pete reported this shortage of the $11 million that the Chiefs were owed by the World Cup committee to start the construction of all this. And so it didn't start. And I thought, wow, they're getting behind schedule on the World Cup. Well, they have started, and it is torn up. And we have a quote from the owner of the Chiefs now where he says it's, quote, fairly major surgery. Fairly major surgery to Arrowhead Stadium right now is taking place as they're tearing it apart and the seats are coming out down below, all for the World Cup. Did you know this, little gem? They have so much money. Did you know this? This is a rehearsal for next year. They're putting seats back in. They're tearing it apart. They're configuring it for the World Cup. Then they're going to put it back and play football this year. The Chiefs are so cheap. Cheap's not the right word. The Chiefs are so good at business. They got people to pay for all this stuff to tear up their stadium as a dress rehearsal for 2026. Maybe I'm the only guy in town that didn't know this, but the seats are going back in. They're not losing any revenue this football season. If you had a seat down there, you still have it. They're going to put it back in by August. Now, they're not getting their concerts this summer, so they're losing revenue by not having a bunch of big stadium events this summer. But I had no idea. I've never heard of such a thing. A dress rehearsal, ripping your stadium apart, setting it up for soccer, not using it for soccer, tearing the soccer part back up, putting the seats back in and playing a football season, just to make sure you can do it next year. My burning question is, did FIFA require this? Because when FIFA tells you to do something, you do it. Did you know the Chiefs cannot refer to the World Cup and the stadium they're being played in as GEHA Stadium? It is not allowed by FIFA. Nobody can say GEHA or GEHA or any of that stuff. The sponsorships in the stadium are coming out. That's part of the dress rehearsal. They're coming out. Chiefs don't get to keep any of that or any of that revenue. It's amazing because I don't think there's any better run business in Kansas City than the Chiefs. There may be equals. There's some great companies here. There may be equals, but there's none better than the Chiefs. And now we've learned that FIFA's better. FIFA just comes in and says, here's what's happening. You want to have 6 soccer matches? Here's what's happening. We make all the rules, and the Chiefs follow it. This has got to be a really weird experience for the Chiefs because nobody in this town tells the Chiefs what to do. Nobody. It's just got to be strange and bizarre for them. One of the big stories yesterday that we previewed a little bit, and Pete talked about a little bit earlier today, was Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, meeting Trump at the White House, which was your typical meeting. And I think Trump respects the guy. He was a Wall Street dude and Goldman Sachs and all that stuff. And he said, I respect him. I think he respects that he's a businessman and he's been done well at this. And then they did their sit down in front of the media, and it was just as awkward as could be because Trump talked the entire time. The new guy, Carney, didn't get to say much, but did say, we're not for sale and we're not going to be the 51st state. And Trump like leans his head and smirks like, we'll see about that. And then he went on to say something to the effect of everything is for sale. I think Trump's working this brilliantly. He ran off one prime minister. Fact. He ran him off. Then yesterday, Trump said, I'm the best thing that ever happened to Mark Carney. I got him in as prime minister. And I'm sure behind closed doors, he told him that. Look, you're there running your country that you love because of me. I ran the other guy off. Now you're in. You're liberal. We disagree on a whole bunch of stuff, but we are not disagreeing on the money part. Here's the thing with the money part. I'm right. You're wrong. You need to fix it. And it will be fixed. We're not going to do this anymore. And I don't think now that Canada, as the 51st state, was ever the real play. I think we found out in the last 48 hours exactly what the real play is. And here's the inside scoop on it. The conservative premier of Alberta is named Danielle Smith, and she's been there for a few years. She announced in a podcast interview just prior to the prime minister meeting with Trump that she would offer up a referendum on separation from Canada, that's secession for the province of Alberta. It will be on the ballot if they get enough signatures. It does not seem like there's any chance they won't get enough signatures. 42% of Albertans say they want out of Canada. That's not even the number that voted for her. A lot more voted for her. She says she doesn't have a dog in the fight, but she will accept the voters' judgment in this, that it's about not only oil, which is the big thing, it's about healthcare independence from the Canadian government and education free from the liberals. This is a conservative province. Think of Texas. Oil rich, loaded with conservatives. We know how they operate. That's the province of Alberta. Now, Trump sat right there with Carney yesterday and said, I don't want your aluminum. I don't want your steel. I don't want your cars. I don't want any of that stuff. Did you hear him say he didn't want the oil? I didn't hear that part. We got pipelines running out of Alberta down into the United States. They go all the way down to the refineries in Texas. It's Keystone Pipeline. The XL portion was never completed, but there's a pipeline. It's flowing. It runs. It goes. Is there going to be tariffs on all that oil coming in? Is it going to be even worse for Alberta? If they vote on this thing and they vote to secede from Canada, does it come with some sort of a handshake, or do we have to pass some law here? Do we have to do it first that we would accept them as a 51st state? What will we do? Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm saying this is Trump's dream because I've asked from day one, why would he want all of Canada to be the 51st state? That's just going to bring in 2 Democrat senators and a whole bunch of Democrat representatives in the House. It sounded like a horrible strategy, but like Trump always does, we want Greenland. Well, maybe they'll take a piece of Greenland. We want this. We'll settle for less. He's getting 145% tariffs on China right now, which has basically stopped all the trade. Well, that's not what he's shooting for. What's he shooting for? 30%, 40%, 50%? I don't know what his number is, but he's starting at 145. Because then a win at 30% is a pretty darn good win over what we were getting, which was 0. What if all along Trump has been targeting this thing with Danielle Steele, who's the premier of conservative province Alberta, and all along he thought, you know what? If we can get them, and by the way, it's not hard to secede in Canada. This is not a hard thing. It's not like America. It's really hard here. It takes a huge majority of votes that has to be passed by Congress, all these things. About 30 years ago, Quebec was talking about doing this. That's the French-Canadian province where Montreal is. And they wanted out and wanted to be part of France or whatever. And the Supreme Court in Canada ruled that they can do this. That you take a vote, and that's that. If you want to secede, it's not particularly difficult in Canada. This leader, this premier of this province, says she's going to put it on the ballot for her citizens. Within a year, she's going to do this. And we'll find out. I have no idea what happens after that, but it sounds to me like we need to get some polling done in Alberta. I think Albertans would vote to leave Canada, but I'm not sure they'd vote to go to America. And I don't know how they'd put it on their ballot. I think they sort of want their independence. They want their own health care, their own education system. Again, think of conservative states. Think of if Florida could do this and Texas, as big as they are. We just want to be our own country. We can do this because we're massive. We have everything we need. We have all these minerals, oil, everything we possibly could need. We can do our own trade deals with America and live our lives the way we want to live it because they're super conservative in Alberta. I think maybe that was the plan all along. And I don't know why it didn't occur to a lot of people. I'm not the one who came up with it. I saw the story about this with, Premier Smith talking about putting this on the ballot and having a vote. When you see that, and they're talking about that in Alberta, here's what we're learning. We don't know anything about Canada or Mexico. They know everything about us. Have you ever gone on vacation and people from Mexico or other countries or Canada, they know everything about us. They know about the White House. They talk to you about Trump. They know your sports teams. They know you're in the middle of the country. Oh, you're in Kansas City. Oh, lots of good beef there. They know everything. We don't know anything about them. I'm not saying that's a problem as Americans. Maybe it's why we're America first, but we really don't know anything about them. And this is great information. I love it. I think that would be cool. Can you imagine the victory lap if Trump got this accomplished in 4 years? We added a 51st state, 2 Republican senators, I don't know how many, 6 or 8 representatives in the House that are conservative. Can you imagine the gift that keeps on giving? All that oil and all those people, and if they hate it, the liberals will move out. The liberals that are in Alberta are going to move back to Canada. They'll go to a different province, and it'll be open for all of us. Could you imagine what that would be like? It sounds like a dream. It sounds like it's impossible. It sounds too good to be true. But I'm beginning to think that's what he was thinking to begin with. Let's go get that conservative province because it fits right in with the Dakotas and all that. All the oil, beautiful stuff. Love to hear your thoughts. 913-408-7957. That's 913-408-7957. We're underway. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Kevin Kietzman.
Welcome back to Uncanceled. Great to have you with us on this cloudy day. Sounds like maybe some rain is on the way. Been hearing the forecast all morning, so get ready for that. Looks like a beautiful weekend. Making some plans maybe to go to a baseball game this weekend, see the Royals and Red Sox after they clean up on the White Sox. We'll talk more about that later. It was one of the craziest Royals wins ever. And the Royals didn't really win. The White Sox lost, I think is the better way to say it. We'll get into that and much more in a bit. Lady Gaga had a concert in Brazil. They said 2.5 million people attended. Well, that's terribly misleading. 2.5 million people maybe spilled out into the streets in a massive city. It was all along a beach in the city, and maybe you could hear it from far away or whatever. But the big story around this concert was they caught a bomber that was posting incendiary devices right by the stage. And his goal, because Gaga is a Satanist, was to sacrifice children. He's going to kill kids. He wanted to get to the area where the kids were and detonate these explosives and kill hundreds of people. His name was Luis da Silva. And this happened a couple of days ago. Some people heard about it. It didn't make that much news, but now it's on my radar because he not only was arrested, they arrested a 17-year-old that was with him. And apparently this Luis da Silva is a pedophile and has committed all kinds of serious crimes against kids and is a sick human being that, drum roll please, Donald Trump just deported a few weeks ago from the United States. Deported him, found his way to Brazil, and was going to bomb a concert. That is nothing you'll hear on the news. You just don't hear those things. And that's the result of what happens when you target the worst among us that do not belong here, and you send them the hell out of here. Can you imagine if that guy had stayed here and tried to plan something like that here, and we didn't catch him at the right time? I love this story in Tennessee, and here's why I love this story. Tennessee state troopers, along with ICE, decided that it would be a good idea to take a stick and poke the Nashville mayor. The Nashville mayor is liberal and doesn't like ICE operating in Nashville. And they've made it difficult. So ICE said, great, if we're having places in Nashville where we can't go in and do our work because they're making it difficult at the local level, we're going to go just outside of Nashville to the south on the interstate. And they basically set up a roadblock with the state troopers on the interstate. And over 2.5 days, they slowed everybody down like a traffic stop. A lot of people they just waved at, roll your window down. This is like you've seen the DUI checkpoints, right? Everybody knows what these are, DUI checkpoints. They used to have them at midnight on Monday after games at Arrowhead. And you would slow down and you drive through them. And if the driver was okay, there was no reason to think of anything. The cops could sort of see, and they waved you and you just kept going and everything's good. But if they look in and they see, a bottle of Jack Daniels on the dashboard and the driver's asleep on the wheel, they're going to grab you. They've got cause to find out what's going on here. It's a DUI checkpoint. This is no different. They use the same laws that allow that to say we're doing this. We're just going to do a traffic stop. Well, what they saw was quite amazing. They made 150 traffic stops. They found drivers without licenses, without insurance, illegal drugs in their vehicles, illegal firearms, reported gang members, and illegal aliens. Many of the drivers reported they were in this country illegally and were being honest about it. The sweeps continued for 2.5 days, and they needed a bus out on the interstate to take them all into custody. ICE put out a statement, said protecting safety and security of our communities is a top priority. The officers are highly trained professionals who carry out their duty with diligence, respect, and integrity and follow the law. Giselle Huerta of the advocacy group Children of Immigrants, according to a TV station in Nashville, said they just stopped them and asked them for paperwork. And if they didn't have anything, they just took them away. They asked how they crossed and how they got here and then just took them away. First of all, most of us don't care if that's what they did. Secondly, that's not what they did. Did they profile them? Probably. Did they look in the car and see what they had? Yeah. You remember the dude that everybody's talking about when he drove in Tennessee and it's made the news, the viral video? And he had 8 passengers, a board-out back seat where they had a bench put in for 3 more people so they could fit 8 in the car. His passengers couldn't speak English. None of them had identities, any ID on them. And the driver told him, it's my boss's car from Maryland. We're coming from St. Louis. He was obviously trafficking. The FBI called the troopers in Tennessee and said, you got to let him go. This was under Biden. Let him go after they had him pulled over. That all occurred. As that's occurred over the last week, how do you think the Tennessee state troopers have taken that? What do you think that made them look like? That they pulled that dude over that's in the news 2 years ago, and the FBI told him to turn him loose. Well, guess what the FBI and ICE are saying now? Go get him. And they got him just outside of Nashville city limits. And I think Missouri should do this. I think Missouri should do this in an awesome, big way. I'm all for it. I don't think Kansas could because the governor would stand in the way. But why not Missouri? Why not do this on I-70 somewhere? Now, I know you got a lot of trucks, a lot of cars. Maybe you pick a place or a time in the evening north of St. Louis or south of St. Louis or north or south of Kansas. Most south of I-35 in Kansas City is Kansas, so that's not the perfect location for that. But north I-35 of Kansas City, you could do it. Maybe in the evening when there's not as much traffic, just to see what's happening or coming into Kansas City from the north. I think it would be awesome if Missouri did this. I would love to see what a sweep does on I-35 for a couple of days, sweeping cars, slowing them down, deciding who to pull over and check on, and find out how many illegal aliens, how many drugs, how many guns, how many traffickers we have rolling through our city every day. I would love to know that because Nashville has a bunch, and a whole bunch of them got caught, and liberals are losing their mind over it, and no law was broken, and this is what ICE and your state troopers should be doing when we have the crime problem that we have in this country. I am all for it. Great stuff. All right, Uncanceled continues. We're going to talk about Pride Fest in Kansas City being defunded to the tune of at least $200,000. That's next on KCMO.
You're listening to Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Man, I was shocked to see this story about KCUR radio here in Kansas City. I mean, absolutely shocked. We know they're getting defunded by Trump. NPR is. And we know the numbers. NPR is hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars a year. 1,300 affiliates around the country. They produce a show like All Things Considered. And the government pays to have that show produced, and it's far left. It goes on 1,300 stations, and did you know those stations have to pay for that show? So they double dip at the high level, at the national level. It's insane, the money that is running, and the duplicity of the money that's running through NPR and PBS. But it appears that it's over. And if you're trying to figure out how much money this is, NPR in Kansas City, KCUR, actually writes a story and goes on the air and starts complaining about Trump defunding them. He's taking $500,000 away. They're losing $500,000 out of their budget. Now, that sounds like a big hit, but you can, I guess, find a way. You could theoretically find more sponsors. You can cut back on your staff. It shouldn't be that hard. Now, when they said what their budget was for the station, what they spend every year, this should be the easiest thing in the world to do without. This is the same thing as the IRS layoffs. It's a tiny, percentage-wise, a tiny little slice. I cannot believe that they reported on themselves that the $500,000 they're losing and they're complaining about is 5% of their budget. That means that station operates on $10 million a year. That means where we are right now, there's 6 stations here, right? That means if they did that here at Cumulus, that would be $60 million a year. Guys, everybody listen up. If they want to operate KCMO Talk Radio at $10 million a year, we need to get some agents. We need to find some people repping us because that is a pile of money. I don't know how you could spend that at a radio station. Honest to God, I don't know how you could spend $10 million a year.
Hey, maybe we get some T-shirts and some hats to give away.
All the above. Why just give away cars and stuff? The heck with giving away hats. Let's give away cars right and left. I can't tell you how much that is for a radio station budget. It's outrageous is what it is. We should maybe try to get some sort of a report on how much management is making there. PBS in Kansas City and NPR in Kansas City have boards of directors, okay, which we don't have at KCMO Talk Radio. We don't have a board of directors. We got Donna Baker runs this place. Pete Mundo runs the station. John's the news director. Mark's producer extraordinaire. I come in and do my little pod boy 1 hour a day, right? That's it. That's it. We get to split $10 million, guys, every year.
Let's go.
I'll do it for one. The 3 of you, you've been here longer, you can split the 9. I don't care how you split it. Anybody want this? Let's do this. Okay, I know. To run a radio station, it takes some power. You have to have some electricity. So there's an expense there. And the sales reps get a piece. There's some commissions. I have no idea why KCUR did this to themselves. I don't think they know how stupid they look. And for everyone in the media that listens to this show every day in Kansas City, and you've known this about me for a long time, I've screamed defund these people forever. It is a ruse. It's a scam. It's a grift. The entire thing is, it is a PBS, Channel 19 is the same way. They're all the same. It's a joke. It's not the real world. It's bloated government that has duplicity everywhere in spending money. It's crazy. Now you know. Think about where you work. If you're a news reporter right now and you work at Channel 9 and you're thinking about your salary and maybe you're starting out in your career in your 20s, you've blown it. You should have gone to KCUR. It sounds like they pay double, maybe triple. That seems to be where the money is and the easy work, and they probably don't lay people off, and you probably would really have a hard time getting fired unless it was something racial or sexual. You could probably be really crappy at your job there and still keep it, I'm guessing, since it's, funded by the government. $10 million budget per year for a local radio station in Kansas City. That's just, there's no way. That's so embarrassing for them. Speaking of budget cuts, the folks at Pride Fest are, well, I almost used a term I shouldn't use. They're hurt over the fact that they're getting $200,000 less from sponsors this year than they got last year. It seems that affiliating your company with Pride Fest or a parade or whatever is not good for business. And make no mistake about it. You can feel real good about donating to something and love the charity, but generally when you're a company and you commit to a charity and you put your name on it, you're doing it also to benefit your company. Maybe not as your first thought, but you're thinking this is good for us. This is good for our company. Now we've learned that $200,000 less of sponsors are in on this year's Pride Fest in Kansas City. It is a month away. They sell tickets to this. That's easy. Raise the price. Cut a couple of the bands. Apparently they hire bands and have a band stage and stuff. This is like concert in the park and whatnot. The director, Tony Medina, said, quote, "We are trying everything," unquote, with Pride Fest this year, that, quote, "sponsors will contribute, but they don't want to be publicized," unquote. Well, now that's interesting. So that means we've got people that their business is dependent on LGBTQ plus customers. They would, in all likelihood, be part of the same community, and they want to support it with their business, and they want people in the community to know that, but they don't want to publicize it for the general public. It sounds like they're going backwards. I mean, they're making bad decisions here at their level. Find the companies that suit Pride Fest and be proud. It is called Pride Fest. If you're a company that's sponsoring this and you're afraid to put your name out there, you're not proud at all of Pride Fest or the lifestyle or LGBTQ plus. This is the equivalent of the MAGA people. When Trump came down the escalator, we went through this for close to 4 or 5 years. People were afraid to say they voted for Trump. They were afraid to be part of it. Well, people aren't really afraid of that anymore. But they were. I used to call them out and say, you're kind of a chicken. If that's who you are, and that's the way you believe things, that you support Trump, you love MAGA, but you're afraid to say it, it's a red mark for me. Same thing with Pride Fest. Figure it out. If you're really supporting it, your business is supporting it, you're sponsoring it, be proud of that and let everyone know. Here is John in Gardner on KCMO Talk Radio. Good morning, John. How are you?
Kevin Kietzman, I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Excellent. Thank you.
So KCUR, and I think the station out of Lawrence, they play some really good jazz over the weekends, like late at night especially. But there's this, it was not local, but it was like one of the national NPR shows. I don't remember the name. And this was a while ago, but they were doing a live remote, and it was jazzy and it was fun. It was good. They were getting it. That's fine. But the lyrics, the lyricist, she starts stepping away from the song and starts going on a diatribe about, Donald Trump, you are racist, and why do you hate black people or something? I don't know. I'm grossly paraphrasing, which is fine if that's what you want to think and do and say. But why do my tax dollars go for that? Why don't they do a song about, hey, Joe Biden, you're brain dead? I never heard that. I just heard that Trump's a racist, and that was the drum beat through the rest of the song. Or whatever. I mean, it's fine, but just, my tax dollars, it's like, what?
I'm not bragging here. This is just for context. When I worked at Channel 4 in the 90s, every single year they asked me to come do the telethon at PBS, the TV station, Channel 19. Come answer phones, come do a couple hours on air, the whole deal. And I'm a young guy, and I'm thinking, okay, this could be good for my career if I went and did this. It's more exposure to a different audience, whatever. I turned it down. I don't believe in it. I've never believed in it. And you can't believe the heat that I caught at Channel 4 from executive producers, bosses, whatnot, that I was not willing to do it. We had a rule back then. You had to make 4 public appearances a month, basically 1 a week. You had to do something to go help promote the station. Well, that was easy for me to do. There was plenty of other things I could do. That's the only reason I got to turn that down as I went and did other public appearances. It's funny now, these TV stations don't want their people out in public. It's the strangest thing ever. And I feel like it's because they're so liberal, they don't want them out there. And they know they're in a conservative part of the country. But I did not believe in the telethon. I did not believe in, we gotta fund the Fleetwood Mac concert that we're gonna play for you. We gotta send us money and buy this DVD of the Fleetwood Mac concert. Otherwise we're gonna go under. No, they were never going under. This wasn't Jerry Lewis, okay? It wasn't muscular dystrophy or cancer or leukemia. It was a grift, and it remains a grift. And they can do all the radiothons and telethons they want to raise money for themselves. Just stop taking our tax dollars. We don't want you to have it.
So no tote bags for you, huh?
No tote bag for me. None. And, immediately people would brand me and say, oh, you're a conservative. And I was still trying to figure out who and what I was. I knew what I believed, but I didn't really know politics that well. I didn't follow it all that. I was a very young man. I just knew that I didn't believe in the government paying for my competitor. When I was on TV every night, Channel 19 was on too, and they were doing news up against our news. I'm like, why am I helping them out when the government's paying for them? Why would I do that? And people that I worked with did not understand my point of view.
I think it's gotten more divisive. Like back in the day, they had the car guys. What do you know? I mean, it was kind of a fun lineup, but that was like a long time ago. And I knew that it was kind of leaning left, but you'd still, have fun with it. And I would tune in, but not so much anymore. I can't stomach it.
They love to say Sesame Street or whatever. So the solution to this is perfect. Let Paramount buy Sesame Street.
Well,
give them the
Street,
brand. Sell it off. Sell the brand off and let it be on CBS every Saturday morning. I don't care what you do with it.
The Big Bird movies and the Elmo dolls and the franchises and stuff. I mean, that can support, is that my tax dollars paying for the Elmo dolls? I mean, it's a good franchise. Insane. They can do something with it.
They could sell it for a bundle in the billions, probably. They could sell Sesame Street. And a real network that works for a profit would crank out some great programming, give it tremendous access, and it'd probably be bigger than ever before. People laughed when Star Wars sold, when George Lucas sold Star Wars. Well, look what that's turned into. It's just a huge financial cash cow. They made fun of Disney for what they paid for it. It's the only thing making money at Disney, basically, is owning Star Wars. It's the same thing. When you've got a brand in this country, it's worth something. And I would say Sesame Street might be worth more than the PBS brand. Sell it off. You got financial problems, sell it off.
It's all good. Just my tax dollars go to stuff that I just don't agree with and I don't have a say, Exactly. So I don't know.
Yeah. Good call, buddy. Thank you very much. I agree with you. And it's not just that they're left-leaning, folks. It's just wrong. If it was straight down the middle, it's wrong. If it was leaning to the right, it's wrong. That's not what you do with Americans' tax dollars. Hand it to a massive entity, hundreds of television stations, probably in the low thousands, 1,300 radio stations, and fund them for nothing but public broadcasting, liberal propaganda, whatever. Even if the liberal propaganda wasn't there, we shouldn't be paying for television. They should be competing in the marketplace of capitalism, just like Cumulus Media does where I work, just like my podcast does where I work. Crooked Tail Media is the name of my company. All right? I got to compete against everybody else. I don't get government subsidies to do a podcast. Cumulus isn't cashing in money from taxpayers. Why in the world are NPR and PBS, and how has this even gone on the last 30 years? This should have ended years and years and years ago. The Royals are hot, and we have the answer to whether or not the air traffic control can see all those birds flying on radar. That's next on Uncanceled on KCMO. We are brought to you today by our friends at bestofferkc.com, helping you leave the hassle behind. Mark Delatour and his fine people at Best Offer KC really have your best interests in mind. They don't just buy houses, they help people through tough situations. People like a couple in Lee Summit. They were going through a tough divorce. It's part of life sometimes. They worked around their schedules. They were able to stay in the house longer and finish moving. It made a really hard situation a little bit easier for them. There's options to sell and stay a little bit longer with Best Offer KC. The other folks don't do that. They simply don't. And 10% of the homes in Kansas City sell in non-traditional ways without a realtor. No repairs, no cleanings, no showings. They do it all. For a free bid and quote, call 816-338-SOLD. That's 816-338-SOLD. Online at bestofferkc.com to learn more. And my word to you is that these folks are different and that Mark and his team really care about your situation. They will do everything they can to make this easy for you. If it's a medical emergency, if it's a moving situation, if it's personal, or if you've lost a job, whatever it may be, they really want to help you. bestofferkc.com, helping you leave the hassle behind.
Whether you're a Jayhawk, Wildcat, Tiger, or KC Roo, we won't cancel you. Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Let's check in with Mark Van Sickle. Good morning, Mark. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you doing?
How about those Royals?
Oh, man. So good. So good. Got to sweep the White Sox.
Did the Royals win or did the White Sox lose?
I would say a little bit of both, but mostly the White Sox lost.
White Sox lost. Folks, if you don't watch these games or follow it closely, the Royals are 13-2 in their last 15 games. That's crazy. And last night, they're down 3-2 in the ninth inning, and they get a walk from a guy you've never heard of, Mark Canha. Then they get a pop-up that the second baseman misses off his glove. It hits him in the head. It bounces into right field. A former Royal named Michael A. Taylor grabs the ball and throws it away. So the safe at second, otherwise he would have been out at second base. It just got crazier from there. Fermin then laid down a perfect bunt to move the runners over, but he beats it out and gets a single. And then Isbell came up, and Isbell's a left-handed hitter, and the pitcher that was in was the Boozer guy, the guy that it took forever to get to the big leagues. And he's a lefty, and he throws this slow, sweeping curveball that would have hit Isbell right in the pad on his right elbow, and he backs out of the way. And I'm sitting there watching with Jessica. I said, let it hit you. It would have tied the game because you just don't know what's going to happen. Isbell pops up and makes it out, but then India gets a ground ball up the middle. Shortstop throws it away at second base. You can't make this up. And then Bobby Witt hits one off the warning track in center field to win the game. The White Sox played beautiful defense all night. In the last inning and a half, they were awful. Awful. Fun to watch. Tonight's not the last game. It's a 4-game series, isn't it?
Yeah, they got one tomorrow afternoon as well.
Oh, gosh, I love that. Yes, win them all. Only Detroit has more wins than the Royals in the American League. They have one more win. Okay, we talked about the birds yesterday. 55 million birds flew over Kansas and Missouri 2 nights ago. These are migratory birds from south to north. We think a lot of them are like Canada geese, your ducks, bigger birds. I guess some of them could be swallows and sparrows and different things like that migrate. So we wondered aloud yesterday, and somebody's always going to get a hold of us. Can the radar see that at KCI? Like the birds fly between 1,000 and 3,000 feet. Is this a problem for airplanes? Do you remember we had Colonel John Cluck on a couple months ago when that airplane crash happened in Washington, D.C.? Colonel Cluck got a hold of me and said, oh, yeah, the radar can see the birds, but it needs to be a couple thousand of them. So it doesn't see like each individual bird, but there's a couple thousand. If it's a big flock, then they'll see the whole thing.
I like that Cluck got to you about the birds.
Yes.
That was perfect.
It's awesome. It's so good. And it's actually opened up a million more questions for me because it sounds like the plane would have to be flying between 1,000 and 3,000 feet. So this would be close to airports, like flying out over the middle of Kansas, no problem, because the airplanes are all at 30,000 feet, right? But when they get close to KCI or the Wichita Airport or Manhattan or something like that, it could be a problem. So we now know, yes, you can have a flock of seagulls, not the 80s band, but maybe a flock of, yeah.
My daughters were really interested in this story. I told them about it. Obviously, they were in school when we were talking about it, but I told them after the fact when they got out of school, and they were just very interested in this story. And my oldest daughter, Brielle, she took a screenshot of what Google was talking about, these birds flying over, and sent it to my wife because my wife hates birds. And she said, let's go for a walk tonight, Mom.
And see what's going on out there.
Yeah, they're trolling my wife about these birds flying over us.
They're still migrating. 2 nights ago was the biggest night. They track these things, and this always happens between May 3rd and May 9th. Just absolutely crazy. The New York Times accidentally leaked the address of Elon Musk at his home in Austin, which is in West Lake Hills, Texas, a suburb of Austin. Lake Hills, Texas, a suburb of Austin. Then they updated it without the information. They didn't do a correction or apology. They updated it. How much do you think Elon Musk's house is worth in the hills of Austin, Texas?
I guess probably $15 million.
I was shocked by this number. It is a $6 million home.
Oh, not too bad.
Doesn't he have like $60 billion?
Yeah.
A $6 million home. They published the address. The story was about basically getting even with Elon Musk, and then they act like they didn't mean to do it. Well, of course they meant to do it, and then they took it down shortly after that. The United Kingdom's being invaded by illegals, a lot of them from Muslim countries, and it's not the same. They say England is not what it used to be, and it doesn't look like they're going to turn conservative, that they're going to stay left. A new poll in the United Kingdom of adults 18 and older, 48% of them say no matter what happens, they would not go fight for their country. What? No matter what. Then they had a follow-up poll question. So if another Hitler came along and the Nazis were coming after us again and they were bombing us, you wouldn't join and help. And only like 10% of the people that said no said, well, maybe in that case. Wow, they got a problem in England, man. They got a huge problem. And here's an idea for you. We've got Alcatraz in the news. We all like that idea. You love the idea, right, Mark? We all love the idea.
Oh, yeah.
A former general, or maybe an admiral in the Navy, says he's got a better idea for Trump, and that is San Clemente Island, which is off the coast of California, I think near San Clemente, which is north of San Diego, but before you get to L.A. It's out a little ways. It's past, it's out a little ways. This island belongs to the United States Navy, period. It's 21 miles long, and right now only 148 people are on that island in any capacity. Most of them have to do with Navy. 57 square miles. This former admiral says, you want to build a prison? That's your island. Nobody could swim to the coast, and it's huge. You can put every illegal alien on one island. It's 57 square miles. Just build a fence around it. Well, don't build a fence around it. Just put them out there.
Yeah.
The Vince Show is coming up next. Thanks for listening to Uncanceled.